might be fun to just have a little bit of a conversation with both of these guys about sort of where things are going in the space. You've taken a slightly different approach, and you're obviously solving problems that are a little bit different. I would just maybe kind of open to the floor. Do you guys expect this to be a pretty competitive market? I mean, it seems like we've had. I think you guys are probably the third and fourth analytics people that have come on the context, all kind of with a similar type of, hey, plug in this chunk of reporting information into your MCP, and it'll start sending stats our way, and we'll have a SAS and a dashboard. And so the dashboards are very different. They sort of track different things, but given the simplicity of sort of plug this in, anybody can plug it in and start getting stats. It seems like an area that there doesn't feel to be a really high bar for people to build solutions or to implement multiple or multiple analytic solutions. What's your kind of expectation for how this is going to shake out? Maybe Austin, I'll start with you.
Yeah. So I feel like in the last several years, we've had this huge revolution of coding agents where we are able to give a high-level problem to an LLM system, and then it can implement a software solution and push that out to production completely autonomously. And so that solves one side of the product loop. And then the other side that's still missing is actually knowing what features to build in that software. And so I think that's where all of these observability and analytics solutions come into play, is that if we can close off that other half of the loop, then we create a completely autonomous cycle where software products can build themselves based on the needs of the market and the needs of your users. And so I think within that space, there's still a lot of opportunity in different areas for how you can actually improve the product. So whether it's on the business side, understanding business concerns, on the technical side, improving the performance and efficiency, or if it's on the complexity of what the product solves within the market. And so I think there's a huge opportunity here if we can complete that loop and create these autonomous kind of software, evolving systems.
Yeah. Shubham, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I think I have a pretty strong take on this is that traditionally as well, if you see UI analytics, there have been players like Google Analytics, Mixpanel, Amplitude, all, co-leading their own markets. The same for API as well, where you have the likes of Sentry, Datadog, etc. competing. I think with this entire category of agent analytics coming up, is going to be much bigger. So there are going to be a lot of players, and I think all of them will somehow end up finding their own niches, where let's say like one focuses on like catering to PMs or product managers, one could be purely observability. So that is where I think the place has started evolving, where as Shinzo said, right, like 3-4 months ago we were all very different. Like I think I had a chat with Austin 3 months ago, and both of us were tackling a similar problem then. But if you see today, we are very different. So that's how our customers and the space has already taken us out. So I think that's the beauty of this space, that it's evolving so fast that all of us will take our own routes.
It's really interesting, Austin, when you talk about this data kind of feeding back into the loop, right? I mean, we start to have, a prompt driving the development of an application, the reaction to that application then being analyzed by the LM to improve it. And pretty quickly you start to imagine these like virtuous or terrifying cycles, however you want to think of them, as as we create things, they're interacted with by humans and LLMs, and then the LLMs themselves are seeing how they like using it, how people like using it, only to then improve it. It's really interesting. It's really kind of exciting. Are you starting to try to use that yourself? I mean, you're a single, you're kind of a founder on your own. You're building a product. So are you implementing this for what you're doing on a day-to-day? I mean, how much of what you're building are you developing with a coding assistant? How much are you using your own analytics to sort of monitor your, kind of dog fooding this? I'm just curious if you're realizing this yourself, or if you're just kind of imagining that this is coming, but you're not quite there.
So I think we're on the verge of it. So there are some areas where I've already implemented a lot of this automation, essentially. So I have MCP servers set up that start by picking off tickets from my linear task board, implementing the functionality, pushing it out to a staging environment. Q&A is all just set up through screenshots of the application and testing the databases. And so I have all of this process set up. So the software cycle is very largely hands-off. Like, obviously, I still have to get technical sometimes because the LLMs aren't perfect. But it's, I can do 5x the amount of work as I used to as an engineer from a few years ago. And I think on the product side, what I do today is for all of the user interviews that I have, I always gather written notes as well as recorded, like, transcribed notes. And then I can actually, like, gather those into a place and then ask the agent to pull out the trends and features that they see as a common pattern across the different user discussions I have. And so to that extent, it is building these autonomous workflows that solve different parts of the business. And so it's really exciting to be able to build a business as a solo developer today, and just see how far we can go as a single enterprise.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Enterprise. Yeah.
Yeah. The first single person IPO will be crazy. Shubham, what about you guys? I mean, just from your perspective, have you been able to, kind of leverage any of this in your own development process?
Yeah. So for us, we do use a combination of MCP servers internally. I think that is also a reason where, we were able to dog food ourselves and find out that, hey, this is where this could be improved, or this is like, let's try to fine tune this. So we have done a lot of fine tuning, or, playing around with, let's say, Notion, Exa, or, all of these MCP servers. So that has given us a lot of insights. And apart from that, the traditional coding agents have been a huge help to us. I think, like, we are a team of 4, but I usually count us as a team of 8 because all of us have our own Claude agents, and that Claude code is pretty amazing. So yeah, but I think, as Austin pointed out, right, like, now the bigger question is, what do you want to build, or what problem are you solving, is where the bigger onus is, rather than how are you building it. So
yeah. So I was kind of curious. Before we had gone live, Shannon and I were joking about, like, we have done startups in the past, and we did VM management and container management. Now we're like MCP agent so it's kind of like you just repeat the same thing. So it's the same thing with, like, analytics and metrics and stuff. It's like every technology generation, there's companies that come along, but because each technology brings, like, a new set of challenges and, like, a new. So I'm curious, is like, what is your kind of take of, like, what's, like, kind of different about, it's like, why would you not just use, like an existing analytics company? There's already big players out there who, so what's different about this trend? Or, agents, that we need a whole new class of solutions.
Shubham, do you want to go first?
Sure. So Parth and I wished we could. We tried these traditional solutions for our initial thing, and it did not work out well. That is where we sort of hacked around a dashboard that worked for us. And then a couple of our founder friends reached out and said, hey, we also want the same. That's where we accidentally got into the space and zoomed out to see what's happening here. Because the issue is, the protocol is built in such a different way, right? Like, traditional analytics have built on the top of UI and API and now LLM. But now with MCPs, that LLM is on the client side. So you have your entire UI distribution has gone away. The LLM is on the client side. You can't actually hook stuff in there. So you're just left with your API. Now we are still early in MCP. That's why we are still wrapping API endpoints. But the future that we see is MCP is going to be a different vertical, how we have from REST APIs. So this is a vertical that's spawning up. Now, the bigger players that we have talked to, at least, are still waiting to see how the space evolves and then capture it. But we want to solve for the people who are early and are struggling with it. So I think we also hope that we could use the existing players, but we couldn't. That's how we ended up building what we are. So
Yeah.
Yeah, the same thing, Austin. Did you look at some, like, how should I monitor this with Datadog before, or how should I monitor this with an existing stack?
Datadog, PostHog, Mixpanel, solutions like that. I looked at a bunch, and I think what really frustrated me about those solutions is that they work well when you have a broad suite of of software tools that you need to like consolidate observability for. It's kind of jack of all trades, but master of none. And so I think building observability specifically in the AI agent ecosystem allows us to focus on that niche and really build additional features that, you know, give that competitive advantage to that specific software product. And so with MCP, I think in particular, things like what a lot of the features that Shubham presented earlier, talking about like customer sentiment analysis for the kinds of conversations that you have with LLMs and agents, understanding like context management and token usage. I do think that, you know, as inference costs stop being as heavily subsidized as they are today, I think will become a bigger pressure point for companies to optimize those costs. And so that alone is going to be an area of focus that you don't see with other software products. And so there are a bunch of these different aspects that I think are worth digging into specifically to this ecosystem.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating when you look, because you think like, you know, in the past, like monitoring and stuff, you have these like very basic primitives of like gauges and histograms and all that. And it's kind of like when you start looking in the AI space, it's like those primitives that we built all the monitoring, they're kind of useless. You know, it's like you can get the basic stuff, but like that's not what you want to look at. Like, what is it when you think like the whole idea of visibility is I'm trying to figure out like it's because this kind of like bugged me of like, you know, it's like if you say what's the error rate for my MCP, it's like, well, that doesn't mean, you know, 500 status codes. Error rate is the tool didn't do what I wanted it to do. It's like we're going like, you know, it's like more like deep packet and, you know, it's like we need to go one more layer deeper. So yeah, well, you know, it's that's because I was having this argument with someone where I'm like, you can't just take one of these existing products because their terminology just doesn't even map anymore. Because what is an error? It's completely different. We're not talking about protocol, you know. So this is the criteria of like what's good and bad, you know, fast, slow, and everything. It's just completely different in this space. It's, I mean, I've just had so much fun in the AI space just because I was saying like we've done different management, you know, platforms and stuff like that, and like VMs and containers, not that big of a difference. To me, like it's this stupid like computer. It's driving me nuts. But this also with the AI stuff is just that like everything now is just it's so different. So as engineers, like we have a lot of good knowledge on how to solve problems, but almost like the solutions that we have are not right. You really have to think about this completely different. And that's what I see is so many engineers are like, oh, I know that problem. This is the solution. And it's like, no, the game's completely different. That's not the solution. So.
I think you sparked one thought that I did want to share on the observability side, which is that I found that latency for the server responses is something that is like useful to know, but a lot of users just don't care. As long as it's within like a couple seconds, then it's effectively the same as if it was like milliseconds.
Yeah.
So it's like really the latency is about like how quickly you can get your agent to the outcome you desire. And so it's like the metrics and tools you need are completely different.
Yeah, because you care about like token latency, not the latency.
Right.
You know, so it's
exactly.
Like you're going to see the first byte of the response way before you actually see the token. You know, so yeah, it's fascinating.
We got to wrap up. This is great. I love. We could talk for an hour on this. Austin, Shubham, thanks so much for coming on today and demoing your products. Congrats on, you know, being in the very beginning. Are you guys both first-time founders? Is anybody the second journey through?
First for me.
First one, sort of, yeah.
1.5. That's the best answer. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's 1.5. You know, I don't really want to talk about that.
We don't
talk about that. 1.5.
That's
my favorite answer is like 1.7, but I don't want to talk about 6. 0 through 6.
Yeah.
Awesome, guys. So much fun, and congrats. Please go take a look at Shinzo AI. Go take a look at Agnost AI. Think about your product and what you're building and how you're really going to monitor in this new world of the MCP ecosystem and the agent ecosystem. And guys, we'll hopefully have you back on in a few months to see how things are progressing. It looks like we're getting updates every week. I saw one was 3 days old. One was probably put in yesterday. So nothing like a podcast to drive you to go add some more cool features.